in life, it's like a game, right? I always feel like it's true that there are certain combinations of cards that are naturally stronger, but I also think that it's also my duty to learn how to play the cards that I'm dealt well.
We're online now.
Hello.
How did you start your podcast? Like, how long ago was it?
Wow, I can't even remember now. Maybe a year or wow. No, it's been almost a year since I moved to Taiwan. So
yeah, so it's before
maybe
that.
it's like a year before that. Yeah.
And during COVID?
I think right before.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why I even bought like gear.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I wanted people to come and record.
To your apartment?
Yes.
Oh.
So that's why my podcast is called the 406 podcast. Because I used to live in block 406.
Block?
Yeah, like in Singapore, you know the blocks. It's kind of how each tower.
Oh, the tower?
So
it's not your number of your apartment?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like the whole 整栋楼, right? Like the whole apartment block. Yeah.
I see.
It's just because like I thought that I wanted to record at home. But I've since sold the apartment, so now I can say it.
So because I went to Singapore during the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And it was just, when I was there for 5 days. Yeah, 5 days in total. Things are, of course, it's really, really different compared to Taipei. And I just thinking like how for a Singaporean to be born and grew up there, how does it feel and what did you see? And especially now you live in Taipei.
Yeah.
What's different?
But what was different for you though? Like what did you...
Well, first of all, it's like in Taipei, you only see Chinese descendant Asian faces, right?
Yeah.
But in Singapore, it's really international and a lot of Indians, a lot of Chinese people as well.
Yeah.
And the foreigners, Westerners.
Yeah.
And each district is also very different. Of course, because we will always compare to the places that I've been to.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like all the high rises in downtown area, to me, it's really similar to Hong Kong or Pudong in Shanghai.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lower houses in Katong, atmosphere-wise, it's kind of like Hawaii. Yeah. I don't know how you...
It's the first time I've heard that comparison. I mean, like you've mentioned it before. Yeah. But like I've never been to Hawaii, so I can't speak to that. Yeah. But yeah, I think I imagine that for someone who has most of your life lived in Taiwan, I imagine that Singapore can be quite different.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you've pointed out are the obvious things. It's true that after moving to Taiwan and I'm like, oh yeah, my country is kind of, there are so many different types of people, even in how people look. I do notice that Taiwan generally is more homogenous, at least like when you look at people, like when you're on the MRT, whereas Singapore clearly look very different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there are also differences that are more
subtle.
Yeah.
Or
like
hidden.
Like not so obvious. I would say that Singapore, in this way, we are actually quite similar to our neighbors in Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like actually, funnily enough, after moving to Taiwan, I never used to think about my identity as a Southeast Asian person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but after moving to Taiwan, I'm like, I am a Southeast Asian person.
Like you're more conscious about it?
Yeah. I realize that in many ways I am, and that is the culture that I identify with. For example, when I first started interacting with our Taiwanese friends, our mutual friends, I was like, oh wow, these people are Chinese. I am Chinese, but we are not really the same Chinese. And I think one thing that was really obvious to me, which is really strange, was that I was like, wow, these people identify with Chinese history as their history. And I remember that like the conversation that made me be like, oh, wait, what? Like we would be discussing something, right? Like in the ceramic studio, whatever. And then people would like date their own history in like, oh, like in this dynasty, we were already doing this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or even like today, right? Today is 元宵节. As we
Yeah.
record this, today is 元宵节.
Yeah.
And then like in the studio earlier, we were just discussing, oh, actually what is 元宵节 about? And then Lao Shi just like, oh, you know, in this dynasty, they were already celebrating it. I'm like, oh, it's so interesting that people date their lives and their own like where they come from, like linked to the dynasties. But for me, I'm like, dude, that to me is like, the dynasties is to me what like Roman empires are. Like it is something that happened,
foreign,
but it is not me. Like it's not like my history, which is, I think that could sound strange because I also understand intellectually that my descendants at some point actually came from this culture, but I absolutely do not feel it to be mine. Whereas like, you know, maybe I definitely identify with like the kind of British colonization of Southeast Asia or non-British like European colonization and these kinds of things as sort of being my own history. Yeah, like
and
when
it's part of your life too.
Yeah, like when I think about my past, that's what I think about. Even though obviously I was not alive during that time and blah blah, but it's what I think about as like, oh yeah, that's the history of my people, kind of. Yeah, then obviously like food-wise, you know, cuisine and things like that, you know, I realized that I have a lot more in common. Like I might not be able to speak to someone who is like third generation Thai Chinese because maybe they only speak Thai. But like I realized that, you know, the food and flavors and things like that, that's like my home food, you know? And like, whereas for me, roti prata is my home food. Cong you ping is not my home food. So then I came to realize that, for example, when I'm in Taipei and then I discover like really good Indonesian food, I'm like, oh, this is comfort food for me. Yeah. Whereas like I appreciate like Taiwanese Chinese food and even like China Chinese food, but I don't really see that as my food. Yeah. So
because you didn't grow up with that.
Yeah, I guess yes. So that's like to me something that I realized.
How did you pick up your Mandarin?
Oh, we had to learn it in school.
Oh.
Yeah.
So for
everyone in
everyone?
Singapore.
So everybody in Singapore speaks English and Mandarin?
No, we English and something else. It's called mother tongue. Like so it depends on like your ethnicity and then but actually really it just is what your parents chose for you. I have friends who are pure as in both parents are, let's say, ethnically Malay.
Yeah.
But their parents chose to let them go to Chinese class from like when we were kids.
Yeah.
So then they like their second language becomes Chinese as well. So, although they also learn Malay at home.
So what language do you speak with your family?
With my family, it's English. Yeah. But like there are many families in Singapore. Like for example, my husband's family, they speak Chinese at home.
Like Mandarin Chinese.
对，like 中文. Like what we would
say.
Yeah.
Oh, then how about the history class that you took in elementary school, middle school, high school?
I feel like I didn't learn that much history. No, but it's like Singapore history.
Focusing on Singapore.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we had like parts that we learned about like other history. Yeah. But like I said, it's not really what I would identify with as my own.
I see. When you went to school, like in elementary school or middle school, then your classmates, how big was the class?
I think when I went to school, it was like 40.
40?
Yeah, but when I went to high school, then it became like a specialized high school, then it was a smaller group.
I see.
Yeah.
So then your classmate, their ancestors will be from Malaysia or China or...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my parents moved from Malaysia. So I myself am one such person. And like my history is not uncommon in Singapore. Yeah. And honestly, I think it depends on what type of school you go to in Singapore. But in my own experience, yeah, I had friends from everywhere. Yeah. Especially where I went to primary school. I mean, I didn't go to a fancy primary school. So because of that, I would say that many of us were children of immigrants somehow. And yeah, I mean, I had friends whose parents moved from China, from even like Cambodia. Indonesia was a very big one because I actually entered primary school, I think, when was it? 1997 or 98, which is actually around the time of the Asian financial crisis, and like some racial riots were happening in like some parts of the region. And many people who could afford it were sending their children to Singapore. So yeah, that was kind of my childhood. Yeah, and then of course, like you would have like Malay classmates and Indian classmates. That was like more what I had in primary school, but unfortunately, like class along racial lines is also something that happens in the society. So after primary school, essentially like with my grades, then I would get to like certain middle school. I think that's what it's called. Secondary school is what it's called in Singapore. And then like subsequently, sometimes like the representation of like other groups might not be so high. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in primary school, like I was exposed to all the groups that would constitute Singapore and then friends who were not from Singapore.
Yeah, this is something that I'm really curious about because when I was in Singapore, just like I mentioned, each area is so different and sort of like independent in a sense because, I mean, the downtown area is super fancy and super high tech, whereas there's Katong and then there's, how do you call the red light district?
Geylang.
Yeah. I mean, Geylang and Katong is really different already, even though they're right next to each other.
How was it different? Like, how did it feel different to you?
Well, like in Geylang, the buildings are older. The traffic is a little bit hectic. Not a little bit. It's really hard to cross the street. But then there's like really delicious food and then things are open till late at night. And of course, there's Little India.
I do think that Singapore packs a lot into the tiny island that we have. And that I agree, things can be really different.
Oh, question.
Yes.
So you can tell there's the gap between the rich and the poor. And then that...
does it seem worse or better than Taiwan?
It seemed worse. But it's like from our point of view though. Like
I agree though.
Oh, okay. So just like you mentioned, like different ethnic groups maybe somehow naturally they will be divided, just like moving from elementary school to secondary school. So what's the real situation, or what do you feel in your environment?
So I think like any place, I think it's different groups have different shared values. And I think as a result, they get along with each other better maybe. Like for example, I think for the longest time, I maybe even now, I was like trying to explain to like one of our Taiwanese friends, like, no, a Malaysian person does not equal to a Malay person. Or like an ethnic Indian person can be Indian ethnically, just like how I am Chinese ethnically, but we are all like Singaporean. And then we have like these shared values as a Singaporean. I think in Singapore, there are some small efforts to try and make sure that these things don't bubble. Okay, so as an example, you know, our public housing, actually every block, there are actually quotas to make sure that no one group is actually overrepresented.
Oh.
Yeah, so some people might feel that this is like too much control. But some people will be like, yeah, you know, like our policymakers would argue that this helps integration.
So that means like storefront wise?
No, like who is living there? Like, so.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, at least when you buy. Yeah. So for example, a block would have to more or less be, you know, representative of the general society. So let's say like 70% or 75% of our society is Chinese, then like the block has to be 75% Chinese, and then like X% Malay, X% Indian, X% others.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you buy or when you sell, that's something that is taken into consideration.
I see.
Yeah. So there are like, I don't know, like maybe for some people, they don't feel that this is a small effort. But I mean, like, there are policies that are in place to sort of try and make sure that groups don't form too badly. Yeah. But like, okay, so in my own experience, I do find that in certain generations, the ethnic identity is still very strong. So as an example, you always hear these stories about like parents disapproving of a relationship if it is interracial. And I mean, in a multiracial society, interracial relationships are not like that uncommon. Yeah, but that being said, I would say that I personally know friends who are married to people who are like of a different race, to the point where like, you know, it's really not so absolutely bizarre, you know. So, and I feel like we are like in the younger generations, I feel like we are realizing that, like for me, for example, I feel that like I have more in common. I say it again, I feel like I have more in common with my Singaporean non-Chinese friends than let's say like a Chinese Taiwanese. Recently, in a trip back home, I stayed with a friend who is Mexican. We met in like my master's program in Singapore. Her ex-boyfriend was Singaporean Chinese. Now she's dating a Singaporean Indian. I stayed with her. And then my friend whose wedding I attended in KL, her sister is engaged to like an Indian guy. So he was like singing like Chinese K with us. Like karaoke. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He recognizes like Zhou Jielun, you know, the characters. Yeah. And I think my last day or second last day in Singapore, like I met up with another friend and her husband who's also Singaporean Indian. So it's like, you know, not uncommon. Like, so that's like our experience, I think, as younger Singaporeans, maybe. Yeah.
So generation wise, it's different. Their experience,
I think for
different.
sure. Yeah.
And then the Singaporean government is putting effort to make your block
sort of. Yeah.
So is the harmony between different ethnic groups as well as the wealth gap is something that your government is focusing on or trying to do something about?
I don't know, man. Like, I guess I can't speak for the government, but
do you feel they're doing something? Or, okay, is it a problem for your society?
I think it depends on who you speak to. Yeah. I personally think, of course, in certain groups it can be. But I also see that different groups having different values. And like I don't see it as good or helpful to try to force common values onto people. Yeah, so I think due time must be given for the process to happen somewhat organically. So like for generations to start going to school together, I do feel that we have a lot in common, whether or not we are like whatever our ethnicity is. Like if we attended the same schools and like we played together in recess, and then you know, in the workplace we are with different people, then I think that's slowly how it happens. Like
it takes time.
Yeah.
Or maybe time is the answer.
Yeah.
Is it really difficult to get into good school in Singapore? Like high school wise or university wise?
Wow. I think it's as difficult as any part of Asia.
I know what you mean.
I mean, it doesn't
stressful.
It doesn't sound so easy in Taiwan either.
It's not.
Yeah. So
wait. So
what was your experience going to Taita?
Taita. Well,
so would you say that like Taiwanese education system is very stressful?
If you want to get into good school, yes, it's difficult. And I mean, preparing for the entrance exam is not fun. It was really stressful and
more stressful than university itself.
Oh yeah, university is not stressful at all. How about in Singapore?
I think it's stressful. Actually, for me, I felt like my most stressful like exam was when I was 12.
For middle school?
Because like the schooling system, I feel like the schooling system is pretty similar to here. Like primary school is 6 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, secondary school is supposed to be 4 years. And then in Singapore, it used to be called like junior college. It's like 2 years. And then you go off to university. Yeah. Guys have to do national service after that, those 2 years. Then slowly they started to trying to collapse like the processes, like minimize the number of exams that you have to take.
Yeah.
So then like the better schools, they started saying, oh, you know, the final 6 years is like a combined program that you go all the way through.
Yeah.
But then that just shifted the stress to like when you were younger to try to get into a school that is like, yeah. Okay, like one thing that I think is quite different about Singapore and Taiwan is that like maybe because the country is physically small as well, like the definition of like success is very narrow.
Oh, I want to ask that too.
Yeah, so like I do feel like in Taiwan, I get the sense that let's say even if you did not excel in school, it does not feel like the end of the world. That's the impression that I have. Yeah, but in Singapore, it can feel like that. Yeah, it is a place where what is considered successful is very, very narrow. Yeah.
So basically, you have to do very well in school. Ever since you were little.
Yeah, I feel like okay, the first major exam is like when you're 12. But like when you're 9, they try to see if you're gifted, and then like you take an exam when you're 9. Yeah, and then that exam that you take when you're 12 determines like the secondary school that you get to go to, which nowadays also means that it determines
your future,
the like college program, like not university, but like the 2 years prior.
Yeah.
Together. And then after that you take more exam, and then after that you go to university.
Yeah.
That being said though, like now being in Taiwan, I do feel that the public education system in Singapore is it prepares you well. If you could get yourself through it. For example, after being in Taiwan, I'm like, it's pretty good how they made all of us more or less be bilingual.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's pretty remarkable. I realized that like in Taiwan or maybe even in like, China or wherever, people are sending kids to international school to get what essentially we have
in your public school.
Yeah. Everybody has to do in our normal school. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I say I think it kind of prepares us well. I mean, of course, our Chinese is not great. It really isn't great, but it's really enough.
Yeah, you can communicate.
Yeah.
You can
like pretty okay. It's really enough to function in a society that is predominantly in that language, which I think is quite remarkable.
So the mother tongue lessons were in the first 6 years.
No, we had to do it all the way until I don't know, we were 16 or 17.
Wait, so you first started in first grade?
No, I mean like I do think that like in Singapore we are more or less raised bilingual, even like I mean like my 2-year-old nephew, we talk to him in both English and Chinese. Yeah, so it starts pretty like young or whenever, like, or if you go to kindergarten, then there's Chinese class too.
Yeah. And then if you want to speak to someone else, you better pick up your English and play with them.
Yeah. So even in kindergarten, it's in English and Chinese. So it's yeah. And then we did have the option of taking like a third language, which is also offered like as part of the public school system.
What did you take?
I took Malay.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm not like that one I only did for 2 years.
I see.
And I was like, I have to focus on studying other things. So it was just
Do your parents speak Malay?
Yeah, they do. They did. Yeah, because they were Malaysian. So yeah.
One question I want to keep in my podcast actually is related to the success. Like living in Singapore, what kind of person do your society and family encourage you or expect you to be?
I think in Singapore, money is very important. Whether or not it is like explicit by way of, parents kind of egging you on to certain jobs or things like that. Or sometimes it's just more insidious, like the cost of living can be pretty brutal. And therefore, it weighs heavily on everyone's mind, I think, maybe unless you're like ultra rich. So money is a very big, it's front and center of a lot of discussions. So as a result, I think that people who are financially successful are often also therefore labeled as successful in general.
So that will affect a lot of your life choices?
I think for sure. Yeah.
When you pick your major, your profession and stuff.
Yeah. And then of course, I think like every Asian family, every Asian society, then there are certain jobs that are like quote unquote more respectable.
Yeah.
And more a good idea, stuff like that.
So when you decide to be a dentist, this is something that your family is very happy about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say that like if not for my family, I think I might not have chosen it.
Uh-huh.
I think that it was definitely a big influence. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And then you went to the master program also for dentists?
So I decided to do a master's in public health.
Oh.
Like before, when I started doing it, like nobody knew what public health was. And then over the last 2-3 years, suddenly everyone's like, oh yeah, public health, that's like important.
Right.
Yeah. So,
thanks to COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was like my own decision and wondering, which honestly most dentists and definitely my parents, they were like, what? Yeah. But I mean, at that point I was like, okay, I think I'm sufficiently independent to like make a call on my own and be like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. Yeah.
So how did you decide to move to Taiwan?
There are like many factors, but I think my husband and I, we had always wanted to live somewhere else, experience that. Personally, I never thought it was going to be Taiwan.
I wonder how you then did this decision.
So what happened was that, so there are lots of policies in Singapore. Like, I think that if you ever want to know about like social engineering and how far you can push it in a society, you just study Singapore. So one of the policies is that if you buy like government housing, you cannot like sell it or rent it out fully in the first 5 years. So what ended up happening for us was that our 5 years came up in March of 2022. And then in April of 2022, we were in Taipei. So I mean, it's partly like we were discussing, our 5 years for our house was coming up. What do we want to do? And then suddenly we had this idea, why don't we take this as an opportunity to try living somewhere else?
Wow, you can rent it out your house.
We decided to sell our place. Yeah, so because of some like improvements in our area, we were like, okay, we would be able to get some gains. Yeah, like
it's a good timing.
Gains, yeah, to sell our place. So then it was more like because of that. Then we were like, oh, where can we legally live? Like, okay, so for my husband, he likes Asia.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, okay, Asia's fine, but ideally, like, we would not have to have a language barrier.
Right.
And then secondly, I told him, like, ideally, I would also like for the place to be like, I told him, right, like, for example, he has once like fractured his foot playing badminton. Like, it was a somewhat of a freak accident, but I was like, okay, like stuff happens in life. So I also want to live in a place where I would be able to like, deal with stuff happening in life without too much stress. Yeah. So ideally a place where like, if I go and see a doctor, I will not be like, okay, is this okay? But mainly really it was just down to things like the visas, like, and then my husband did the research and he was like, okay, let's apply to Taiwan. I was like, okay, sure. I was like, okay.
I see.
Yeah.
So is he using like a working visa or the gold card thing?
Yeah. So we are like both. Yeah. So what was really funny was that he found the gold card like visa. And then we were like, oh, we both in completely separate fields actually could qualify for it, like as individuals.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay lah. Yeah. Then we applied and
you got it.
Sort of. I mean, there was some in between, like visa not being processed, like blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, the long story short is that we are both here now.
Have you considered Hong Kong or other places?
But Hong Kong is like as expensive as Singapore.
Yeah.
And
it is.
Yeah, and you will pay even more than Singapore for like a smaller place and like, nah. And also my parents were immigrants from Malaysia. My husband's father is actually an immigrant from Taiwan.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a bit like full circle.
I see. I was going to ask if you have any Taiwanese descendant classmates.
Oh, I mean my husband.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Actually, it's my husband's grandfather that moved the family from Taiwan to Singapore.
Oh.
So my father-in-law was born in Taiwan. He lived in Taiwan all the way until he was like 9 or 10. And then his parents moved from Taiwan to Singapore.
I see. So then your husband still has family members in Taiwan then.
Yeah, like 姑姑, 大姑 and 二姑 are still here. Apparently, the story is that they were already married by the time that their father decided to move.
I see.
Yeah, so they have been in Taiwan the whole time.
I see.
Yeah.
So I have a Chinese friend. His family has Singapore citizenship.
Okay.
I think he went to university in Singapore.
Okay.
And then when he did the military service, he actually came to Taiwan because the Singapore government has like a collaboration thing with the Taiwanese army.
Yeah.
But originally, his family is from Beijing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not uncommon too. I mean, I don't know how common it is, but like in my primary school, just in my immediate circle, there's like 2 of them.
So they're like Chinese, but with the citizenship or
No,
permanent.
This person sounds like he moved, like his family moved when they were pretty young. And anyone who does national service is one of us, I think.
I see. Wait, it's 1 year, 2 years,
2 years. Yeah, and then liability after that. They call you back. Like, it depends on like what your role was. But like, for example, my husband got called back every year.
Oh,
yeah, it's not like over. And then when we moved to Taiwan, because he had done like 10, usually it's like 10 cycles. Like you go back like once every year for 10 years.
Yeah.
And in between, like any time after that, if you leave the country, actually you have to inform them.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. And like even when you go on a holiday.
Oh.
Yeah. So then my husband, we came to Taiwan and he didn't inform them because he was like, oh yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
But like they were like, oh, you didn't inform us. Like, oh,
was it a problem?
I mean, he just went to like update the system. Yeah.
Online?
Yeah. Many things can be done online in Singapore.
Yeah. When I was in Singapore, I definitely feel like it's the most, well, I haven't been to that many Southeast and Eastern countries, but it's like the very advanced and developed.
Oh, I think that could be fair to say, but maybe it could sound not very nice coming from me. But yeah, I think that's fair enough. Yeah.
Last time when we met, because I was talking about Dave Chappelle and then the white male dominance, and I think you mentioned about the Chinese.
Yeah, like male Chinese supremacy.
Yeah.
In Singapore, like some people draw a parallel.
Yeah.
I do think that it's true that in Singapore there are certain, I don't know if you want to say privileges, but yeah, I mean it is kind of the dominant group, like in many workplaces. I think I can see why some people talk about it that way. It's just like how in certain circles in Singapore, but I think that, this is true everywhere. I mean,
there's always a dominant group.
Yeah, and there's always like the in crowd if you attended the correct schools. I feel like even in Taiwan it's like that.
Yeah. Yes.
So because of that, I mean, some people, I can see how some people see it as like, this privilege. Yeah, and it probably is to some extent. Yeah, but like for me, I try not to get too disheartened or let it get to me. Like I mean, because I am female, right? Although I am ethnic majority. Yeah, because I always feel like in life it's like a game, right?
Yeah,
and I always feel like it's true that there are certain combinations of cards that are naturally stronger. The cards that I'm dealt well. Yeah, so I think I try to focus more on that. Yeah.
I see. How's handling your card in Taiwan? Are you gonna stay for longer period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll stay as long as Taiwan will have us.
Well, how long is the visa?
It's for 3 years. Yeah, so after that, by right, I think we are supposed to be able to apply for like APRC, which is like
APRC?
Which
permanent?
Is like, permanent residency. My husband has said that he is keen for that.
Yeah.
So
he's enjoying his time here.
Yeah. I think I think we are both enjoying our time here. Yeah. So
Why?
why do you not think that Taiwan is enjoyable?
Yeah, it is. I want to know your perspective.
I think, for one, I think that Taiwan is not a place where it's so hectic. I think Singapore can be pretty hectic. I mean, it's a bit like how you said that you felt that even the escalator goes faster.
Oh, it's way faster.
It is, right?
Don't you feel Taiwan's escalator is so slow?
I feel like when I first came here, I didn't really think too much about it. But when I went back to Singapore, I was like, wow, it's so fast. And yeah, and so I feel like the pace of life in Singapore is generally pretty hectic. And sometimes that makes you not able to like take a pause and take a breath and things like that. So I can see how easy to get quite burnt out in that kind of at that kind of pace, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think for us, the change in pace was really, I mean, honestly, it was something that we are still getting used to. But I think that we are starting to get adjusted to the Taiwanese pace. So much so that we are starting to feel like it can be really hectic when we go back. I think it's partly obviously because when we go back, then we have people that we want to meet and everything. Therefore, it's quite hectic. But I think in general, even aside from that, I think that life in Singapore is pretty hectic. And I think that a big one is like the financial pressure.
Yeah.
I think, like I said earlier, you know, money is front and center of a lot of conversations and the way of life in Singapore. And honestly, when I first came to Taiwan, I was like, I think it's a slightly biased sample. You know, I hang out with like this group of like artsy people in Taiwan.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I would say that like I know artsy people in Singapore, and I feel that even for them, it's really difficult to be so the way I see my Taiwanese friends.
Like chill and laid back.
Yeah, basically. So I found that to be quite refreshing. I'm still finding it to be quite refreshing. And the funny thing is like everyone in Taiwan talks about how atrocious the quality of life is in Taipei, about how, you know, the pace of life is so fast and that like, you know, the neighbors are like not friendly and like all these kinds of stuff, you know, so, and about how it's so expensive. And I mean, yes, but
yeah, they're comparing to different samples though.
It's all relative. Yeah. I mean, like as an example, when I first came and I started going to the pottery studio, and I was like, what's this guy optimizing for? Like the business owner, Lao Shi. And I was like, I would say that in Singapore, anybody who's running such an enterprise, like anybody, you will not be able to run like the business like that.
Yeah.
And be able to survive. Like that just does not happen.
Yeah.
But yet it happens here. So
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And then not just the pottery studio, I think a lot of cafes or maybe restaurants or
yeah. So I mean, I think also because the broader ecosystem is slightly different, because I realized, for example, that like, you know, at a pottery studio, the reason why it can operate like that is because the landlord also sort of believes in this whole thing, you know, and therefore like there is this acknowledgement that and this value that people attribute to like these non-monetary, like non-quantifiable aspects, you know, which I think in Singapore is like, no, you know, it's like if I can make this much in rent, I'm going to make that much in rent, you know.
Yeah.
And I can understand that also because, you know, honestly, it's a pretty, how shall we put this? It's a highly competitive, and not just like in school, like, you know, things like that. It's just like, it's either you survive in a market or you don't. And even as a landlord, you know, that's what people do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually the rational thing to do.
Yeah.
When you have a measure, when you have a KPI, then you know how you're doing.
But that, okay, I'm not sure if I entirely agree with that, because I don't think that everything is necessarily, all good things are quantifiably measurable.
I agree.
Yeah. So because of that, then I'm like, society quite interesting here. Like, you know, that it's a bit like how when you are sharing with me about like your goals for your podcast, and I'm like, my first question was like, are you monetizing it? Because it sounds like so much effort.
Yeah, I
am
know.
just like, wait, what? Like, I was like,
let's see. Yeah.
I mean, like, I really like it because it's super refreshing for me. That is like, not every calculation is about money.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, because that has been my world for like 32 years,
Mm-hmm.
30 years, maybe if you like, I've been in Taiwan 1 year. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very new to me. And because of that, like I'm enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I think that I enjoy learning about different cultures in an immersive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I'm still quite happy to be here.
Yeah. And I also think if living in Taipei or living in Taiwan is as expensive as in Singapore, then people will not have the same behavior or thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame Singapore also, like that we really have nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like after coming to Taiwan, I'm like, yeah, that's the reason why people here can have this space, in their lives and in the society to accommodate some of these things. Yeah, so I don't blame anybody, but like as a result, I'm happy and quite grateful that I have the opportunity to experience something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading one article about Singapore that to prevent the future agriculture crisis, the government decided to have 1% of the land dedicated to scientific research for agriculture, which they kind of built like a vertical field to experiment with.
Vertical farming.
Yeah, vertical farming.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that's actually like putting so much work and money and effort to keep the agriculture aspect safe, or at least doing something, which in Taiwan, because we have more land and more population, so the aspect or the point of view is totally different. And I mean, we grow rice, we have tons of fruits that China is not buying now. And yeah, so do you see like news in Taiwan? Because I think the focus point in each country would be really different.
Are you asking me if I watch Taiwanese news?
Oh yeah, are you watching Taiwanese news?
Not as much as some of my Singaporean friends are.
Oh really?
Yeah, I have some Singaporean friends who I feel follow Taiwanese news and politics more closely than Singapore.
Wait, are they Taiwanese descended?
No, they are not. Taiwan has a huge following in Singapore.
Why?
I mean, Singaporeans love Taiwan. I think it's because it feels culturally very close. And then you guys are nicer than us.
But I thought you guys are really nice too.
I think we are like nice, but we look fierce, right? Whereas Taiwanese are like naturally just like quite hospitable. Yeah. Okay, to the question, do I watch Taiwanese news? I feel like not that much, but I watch a lot of Taiwanese YouTube.
Oh, who do you watch?
I watch D-Card.
D-Card?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't watch Taiwanese YouTubers, so
no, I mean that's like a channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I follow this girl who advises Taiwanese, I don't know, young women or men or whatever about like relationship stuff. She calls herself Wei Laoban. I watch these because I find it useful as a data point.
Yeah.
Of like what is like societal norm in Taiwan. Because like I said, right, our little sample of going to pottery studio is like kind of a very small sample.
Yeah,
it's also very selective. Like there's all kinds of bias here and there.
Yeah.
So I try to like triangulate my references. Yeah. By like data points, by like watching some of these things. Yeah.
Because you've been living in Taiwan for almost a year now.
Yeah.
And you must have questions for Taiwanese, or you must found something like culture shocks or weird stuff here.
I haven't really found anything that I feel like is shocking. Maybe I have forgotten them. So a friend, like when I go home, right? Like the last trip back was my first trip back after moving to Taiwan. Yeah, and like my friends would ask me, how is it? And things like that. And I'm like, honestly, for a Singaporean Chinese person, it's not so difficult to survive in Taiwan. That being said, I would like put it out there and openly acknowledge the privilege of the fact that we don't work in Taiwan. Salaries here are like, why?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, it's so tough. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that was like not really a shock. I kind of knew this like before coming over. Like, I mean, we both knew that like the reason why this setup works for us is because we more or less earn our money back home despite being here.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why it works for us, you know.
Yeah.
Because like, dude, why?
Wait, so what is the salary difference between Singapore and Taiwan?
A lot. I mean, I don't know, like how do we want to talk about this? I guess you could talk about like median income. Like, okay, let's just say like a fresh graduate salary. Let me look it up. I think recently like Taiwan's like Department of Statistics actually put out this highly controversial number.
Yeah.
About like the average salary in Taiwan. And it was like 6万多. So what do you think is the average salary in Taiwan? I feel like it's the reason why they counted that is because they took like the simple, I mean, I don't know if it's simple average, but basically I think that there is a like the pool of the high tail.
Yeah, it's high enough.
Yeah, that's why it pushed the average.
So they're using average, not midpoint.
Like not median. Yeah, I don't think so. So for example, the median salary in Singapore, if I remember correctly, it's close to somewhere like $5,000.
Monthly.
Yeah, Singapore dollars. And that would be, I think if I remember correctly, it's like 4,000 something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that would be something like 10万台币.
Or more.
Yeah.
When you say dollar, it's Singapore
dollars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and like I would say that if you're a university graduate, admittedly, Taiwan has a lot more university graduates. Like almost everyone's a university graduate. Yes. In Singapore, it's not.
Oh,
yeah, it's not.
Wait, what is the percentage of population going to university?
Wow, this is like a test of me. Like, luckily, I love like these numbers, but I remember it being like somewhere between 35-ish%. Yeah, like,
you know, starting from some point in Taiwan, it's almost like 90 or close to 100.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very different. But like, let's say a graduate salary in Singapore, like in the latest graduate employment survey done by the Ministry of Education in 2021 and published in 2022, the university degree with the highest average gross monthly salary is apparently 6,000 something, but that is like the highest. So yeah, you know, like I think the average is like, yeah, it's $3,600. But I mean, cost of living in Singapore, blah blah. So, but that being said, I think that Singapore, we have the HDB, which is like 80% of the country lives in like these guotais, like the public housing, like 80% of the population.
How much do you need to pay to get a unit in a public housing?
I mean, it honestly sounds like quite a lot of money. But I mean, it can vary greatly.
Depend on the area?
Depends on the area, depends on the size. There are some that go for like more than $1 million Singapore dollars. Even for like public housing. But like you can get one for my old place when I bought it was like 300,000 Singapore dollars.
Oh.
Yeah. And the good thing about Singapore is that like we are like forced to save. Like so every month as part of your salary, immediately without even you seeing it, it gets put into like this account. Of which like 60% of that account you can actually use to pay for housing. Yeah, so it's like the government is like a like a parent.
Yeah.
It's like just taking...
I know China has a similar system. The company has to put this amount of money as the salary but save it for their employees.
Yeah, so we have like that account is contributed to both by you and also the company that you work for. Yeah. So
I see.
So because of that, I do think that housing is way more affordable relative to the earnings in Singapore. Yeah, like buying a place. Like in Taiwan, I don't know. Like
I mean, it sounds like in Singapore you're earning more and the real estate is cheaper.
I mean, not like private real estate. Yeah, I mean, but that's because we have lots of like public housing. Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
Do you know the real estate price in Taiwan?
I do. I mean, I've looked around. I would not buy here. It's like the rental yield here is low, like for the amount that you're paying for to buy the place.
Yeah.
Versus how much you can rent it out for. I am better off buying in Singapore. Yeah. I mean, like whenever I look around and then I like look at salaries and I'm just like, dude, I think like so recently my husband has been sending me these clips about like apparently like years ago our prime minister actually like tackled this question about like affordability of housing.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently somehow he talked about Taiwan.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, a Taiwanese young person basically needs to like not eat for, I think like more than 35 years.
Yeah, probably way longer than that.
Yeah, like just to like finance buying a place. Yeah, so it really has reached this point, which is why like the question about the inequality, like the point, just to circle back, I do agree that like in Singapore, I think I wouldn't say trouble, but the thing about Singapore is that I do think it's part of our business model to attract people with wealth and to attract the wealth.
Yeah, I think so.
So then because of that, right, like at the very top, it seems like they are really like rich. But I do think that in some ways, like with the housing and stuff, like there are some levers that like the policymakers have to try and like help everyone in different ways. But I mean, like I guess in Taiwan, some people would just say, "Oh, then just don't live in Taipei," right? That's the common refrain, right? Like it's like people be like, "Ah, yeah, now young people just don't buy in Taipei lah." It's like just buy
Tainan.
I don't even know. Like I heard that Tainan is now also getting expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so I don't know. I heard that everyone is in Linko. Like, I do think though that if I were a young Taiwanese person, everybody forgive me, this is my Singaporean like money-minded like brain working.
Please share with us.
No, I would like, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was the one who came up with this, but because I have met Taiwanese in Singapore and I've noticed that their general model is to accept a somewhat lower quality of life in Singapore for a certain period of time, like maybe a couple of years.
Yeah.
But usually that would set them up to be able to save quite a bit, like as compared to in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And then they can like come back and either like put the down payment on a house or like start a small business and things like that. I do think that like I do see that in like some of the Taiwanese people that I have encountered outside of Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do working holidays too in Australia, especially because even they're working in hostels or hotels or factories or slaughterhouse, they earn quite much.
Like compared to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, maybe that was something that was, I mean, it's not shocking, but like I just felt like it's quite different. Yeah.
It is different.
Yeah.
How do you like the area that you're living in? You're basically living in the busiest area in Taiwan.
I like it because it's very accessible to everywhere.
All right.
Yeah. I'm really glad that I found it because I feel like it's quite aligned to who we are. Because we stay in like a 公寓, right? Like there's no lift, there's no like elevator. Like some of the 电梯大楼 that I've been to are just, it's just like over the top and like I'm just like, I'm not this. It's not about like the rent. It's not about how much it costs. It's just not me. Yeah, so I think all things considered, like we found a place that worked for us. Yeah, but and I like the connectivity and there's just like lots of food. And
yeah, I was gonna say you are surrounded by good restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, in Singapore sometimes I cook. So I actually brought some of my stuff, like my kitchen stuff. And then at some point, my husband's just like, oh, he just wants to go and explore like a different place almost like every day.
Yeah.
That we are just like, okay, guess cooking doesn't really happen. Yeah. I think it has spoiled us a little bit. Like, I feel like now my husband goes back to Singapore and complains about everywhere being so far and like inaccessible, and I'm like, yeah, compared to Zhongxiaodong, yes.
But I mean, your bus system and then the subway system is
it takes so long though.
Long?
It's like the journey is much longer.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I must say that like within Taipei, the like
metropolitan area,
yeah, the connectivity is. I would give it to Taipei. Like, I think it's superior to Singapore.
Do you ride the U-bike?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
it's nice to have those.
Yeah. So I think it's I mean, Singapore is like it gets you there, but like, you know, in a place where the pace of life is fast, like spending like 1.5 hours on like a bus is just a no-go.
Yeah. Well, because I was traveling there, and then in Katong there's no subway. So we have to take the double-decker bus, which is really nice as a tourist.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's cool that Taiwan has its own charm.
Yeah. Societies are all different.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
I feel like I shall save all of my questions
for your podcast
for the next round.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nothing I can think of.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.